situation where you find that a look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, now let's take a look at some of the papers. We'll begin with the Blueprint newspaper today, and the lead story there talks about 2023 presidency. Buhari keeps he keeps Tinubu, Osinbajo, Bello, Fayemi in suspense. You see that on page 6, and then it has the following riders. It says, I won't name my successor for fear of elimination. Disco's political favor. And now you also have NAS on the undemocratic, on direct primaries, ready to accept bill if revoked. Insists Kano must face judicial trial, but political solution possible if, political solution possible if, and so there's an ellipsis there. So you can catch all the details on that page. You also have cattle grazing routes, solution to farmers, and Heather's clashes. Describe PDP a failure. He says opposition says Buhari has nothing new to offer. So below the pictorial, you see legal tussle imminent as Olubadan in council endorses Balogun. Stories at the very bottom says, finally, FG gazettes bandits, kidnappers, cattle rustlers as terrorists. Bandits kill 2, abduct 2 Chinese dam workers in Niger. 2022, FG to tax non-resident digital firms, 6% of turnover. And Nigeria leads as Africa attracts $4.9 billion investment deals in 2021. You would also find PIA, no more petroleum subsidy by July. That's federal government declares. And then you see also NNPC board. Okadibo's widow replaces Ararome as chair. Carry still GMD. You would see also First Bank, Light app, promoting customer safety and convenience. So these are the major stories on the front page of our newspapers today. Quite interesting stories, if you may. The way the Blueprint newspaper puts this story about Buhari's interview yesterday about keeping Tinubu, Osinbajo, Bello, Fayemi in suspense. Quite interesting. Really, the president actually says he doesn't really care, even though that's what we heard. He doesn't care about 2023 elections, and that anybody who emerges, that's fine with him, you know. But other experts are saying, and political watchers actually are always, you know, talking about, you know, the legacy of the president. How does he make sure that his legacy is preserved? Well, that's that.
Okay, let's take a look at other stories on The Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with a story, Buhari, why I won't disclose my preferred 2023 candidate. The writers there, decision to protect likely successor. I will sign electoral amendment bill when reworked. And also other stories there, Kingmakers pick Lekan Balogun as Olubadan. Gazette classifying bandits, terrorists out. Order may affect IPOB. And you also see on page 4 on The Nation newspaper, Buhari rejects state police. Okadigbo's widow is NNPC Limited board chair. Okorocha hits Ozodinma. These are some of the stories on The Nation newspaper this morning.
All right, so let's take a look at other papers today. Very interesting. Well, let's talk about the Daily Trust newspaper. On Daily Trust, you have quite interesting stories. You know, if you have the lead story talks about 2023. I don't care who succeeds me, and that's according to the President, Muhammadu Buhari. He has the following riders. If I mention my preferred candidate, he will be eliminated. President says IPOP leader Kanu can't be released. So PDP kicks as Buhari rules out state police. So these are the conversations. Other stories there at the top, you would see COVID-19 variant severer than Omicron detected in France. You'd see also, finally, FG declares bandits as terrorists. Buhari replaces Ararome with Okadibo's widow as NNPC board chair. Other stories below the pictorial, pyramids ahead of the First Rise Festival in Abuja. So these are the pictorial there. You see the pyramids there, you know, of bags of rice, you know, somewhere in Abuja. But some time ago we had similar pyramids, and according to investigations, people that went to that place where those pyramids were, they couldn't find anything. So I'm wondering where all the grades disappeared to. Below the pictorial, you see, I hope to see my son before I die. Father of underwear bomber Motella says. You can see that interview on Trust TV, the full interview actually of that interview. You will see also at the very bottom, Gombe crisis, we have reconciled Inua Goje, that's according to Buni. Vigilantes execute 11 informants in Zamfara. Ex-servicemen protest non-remittance of pension arrears and others. These are the lead stories, or I'll say rather the stories on the front page of the Daily Trust paper this morning.
Okay, let's take a look at other stories on the Guardian newspaper this morning. The Guardian leads with a story about Southwest governors counter Buhari on state police, insist on Amotekun. And some of the riders there. Why state police is not an option. Buhari defends stance. PDP chair, president is comfortable with killings in the land. You'd also see Southwest governors fault current federalism, condemns police officers with suspect of Sanwo-Olu, insists Lagos must deploy Amotekun now. You'd also find Malami confirms sending policemen to Magodo, slams Southwest governor's criticism. DAWN Commission, ARG, Okori, others reiterate call for state police. Magodo invasion illegal. Only restructuring can save Nigeria, say Adigborua Ugunye. And you'd also find other stories there on page 3. Ladoja absent as Olubadan in council endorses Balogun as Olubadan designate. Buhari replaces Ararume with Okadibo as NNPC board chairman. You'd also find other stories on The Guardian there about Lagos 2021 internal revenue suffers over 180 billion naira shortfall. And on page 5 on The Guardian newspaper, gunmen kidnap Chinese other workers at Zungeru Power Project. The story right there on the front page, you'd find the picture of their President Muhammadu Buhari, Governor Akeredolu, Sanwo-Olu, and the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba. You'd also see the statement about President Buhari saying, I won't interfere with 2023 presidential election, Buhari promises. You'd also see, at last, federal government declares bandits as terrorists. So these are some of the major stories in The Guardian this morning. All
right. We'll take a look at The Punch now. Another Punch newspaper, the lead story says, PDP, others kick as Buhari dismisses state police, insist on grazing routes. You would see also the opposition party, Afenifere, carpet president for saying state police not an option. Ohaneze plans meeting. President dismisses plea for Nnamdi Kanu's release. We have to go back to grazing routes to address farmers, herders clashes. That's what the president is saying. And then you see other stories at the top there. Debt servicing gobs 76% of revenue. Experts, Buhari disagree on borrowings. Finally, FG releases Gazette declaring bandits terrorist. Magodo Southwest Governors SAN's attack Malami. IG AGF falls alleged impunity. And then you'd find also at the bottom, no court case stops Balogun from becoming Olubadan. That's according to Kingmakers. SFU police ambush, arrest Ogun landlords over land dispute still in court. My wife, children visited my son in U.S. prison recently. Underwear bomber, father Mutallab. So, like we told you, that story, that interview is exclusive to Trust TV, and that's where they all got it from. So you can catch up on Reminiscences. It's a program on Trust TV where that interview was had with the father of the popular underwear bomber, Mutallab. So you can catch all the details. In case you've missed that, you can also watch on our YouTube channel. If you go to our YouTube channel now, you would find the video there. Now, these are the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. All right, I think that's that for our newspapers. Let's get perspectives right away. We have in the studio Hamza Idris, the general editor, Daily Trust newspaper, in the studio to give us perspectives. Let's begin with this interview with the president. It's on every front page this morning. Most of the papers led with that story. And one of the very, very loud statements that the president made was that he doesn't care about who succeeds him in 2023. What's your thought on this?
Well, why you see all the newspapers largely on the interview is because the president rarely speaks. Most of his policy statements and all that, are by proxy. After meeting with his ministers or advisors and all that, you see one of them briefing the press. So whenever he agrees to speak with any of the platforms, you see other newspapers, television and radio stations focusing attention to hear from the horse's mouth. Yes. On the issue of him not being interested, in who succeeds him, I want to take it from two perspectives. First, Buhari, to me and to many Nigerians, is an enigma. Very difficult person to interpret. And on the other side, he believes that he will be accountable to his own action and utterances, as well as inactions. And any other person working with him should also be accountable to his actions and inactions. This is very dangerous for a third world country like Nigeria. In saner climes, in advanced societies, where the system works, leaders have that room, have that advantage to allow things to work because the system is working. But even there, leaders are always interested in who succeeds them, who does what, because government is a continuum. Your legacies are very important. What you do should be preserved, and you should also be protected. Not to protect whether you are corrupt or not, but the interest, your ambition, your mission, what you want to bequeath for your country. All this should be protected, and you can only succeed in getting this when you have a worthy successor. But in fairness to him, he said he kept that to his chest, thinking that if he divulge who is going to succeed him, that person might be eliminated. But you can see the general perspective, and when you look at the explanation he gave, he doesn't care because he keeps record of whatever he does.
Right.
And that's also very interesting because, you know, when he said nobody should ask him to present any evidence in court, you know, and that anybody who does that will be in trouble. That statement looks to have quite a lot, you know, underneath.
That is the military side of the president. Yeah, he thinks, and rightly or wrongly, you know, nobody has yet accused him of being corrupt or being a thief.
So being in
whatever.
trouble, what does that mean?
Yes. You see, as I said earlier, as a president, it's not about you. You may be a saint, but if the people working for you have questions to answer, you cannot, you know, escape as the leader.
Right.
Because that is why you have leaders everywhere. Everywhere. Where you don't have leaders is a recipe for anarchy, and you will not get it right. And then leaders should be accountable, and they should be responsible for the actions and inactions of the people they led.
All right. Now, as you mentioned earlier, the president rarely grants, you know, these kind of interviews, and people getting to do this for the first time is really, you know, quite remarkable. What, in your assessment, what really made the president grant an interview at this point in time?
This is New Year. He used to grant it from time to time, you know. Last year, he granted one to Arise Television. And then this time around, he granted it to channels, and we are going to also watch another one today with the NTA. But as I said, he rarely speaks in public, apart from the normal, you know, maybe while commissioning or inaugurating projects and all that. But to sit with journalists and answer questions, very rare. We can count the number, and that is why whenever he speaks, it is monumental. Whether he says the right thing or the wrong thing or whatever, people, you know, digest what he says, and then you see attacks, and then people challenging him, just the way he's being challenged with what he said now, because he has opened a very troubled posture now in the ruling party. And I think unless probably his handlers give additional explanation, all those who want to succeed him, that will be their focus now for the remaining months, meaning they will not concentrate on what they're supposed to do. And one thing with the president is that he trusts people so much that if he appoints you, he believes that you will do the right thing. And that is why I think he's getting it wrong, you know, on many fronts. If you appoint people, they should be accountable to you, and you should ask them questions. And if they are not doing the right thing, you should sack them. Very few people have been sacked by the president so far. And now he said he doesn't care who succeeds him, meaning Royal Rainbow, right? Yeah. All those who want to succeed him will now start fighting. And at the end of the day, probably they will give advantage to other political parties to deal with them.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, the president talks about quite a number of things, and we may not be able to exhaust everything, you know, in this review, but some of them touch on the issue of security, which is on the front burner, you know, in all our daily conversations, you know, as a nation, country, at large. His solution to some of the issues that, you know, the country is grappling with, you know, some think that, look, these solutions are archaic. For instance, he says the solution to herder farmer crisis, go back to the grazing routes. And when he was asked also about, you know, banditry and the others, he referred to issues of abduction as well. He referred to traditional rulers, that people in authority, governors and the rest of them, should turn to traditional rulers for local intelligence and the rest of them. And no state policing, as far as he's concerned, and that's not a solution. What are your thoughts around that?
Taking them one after the other, the issue of resuscitating grazing reserves, I mean grazing routes, I don't think it is going to be possible, because the whole of Abuja, if you go to the original map, the whole of Abuja He said you have multiple grazing routes and then grazing reserves. So what happens now? Even the presidency, this is what those working in the Ministry of Agriculture said. I expected the president to have on convincing states to embrace ranching, to embrace ruga, you understand, and then to also encourage herders. And herders doesn't mean Fulani. Every other tribe in Nigeria, I can assure you, you know, rear cow, or goat, or ram, or camel, because it's part of us, it's part of farming. So I expected the president to talk more on actually domesticating the animals and then embracing a modern method of agriculture. For the police, he has his reasons. He said governors will actually misuse the police to their advantage. And he cited an example of how the governors have desecrated the sanctity of the third tier of government, that is local government areas. They no longer exist. And it is partly responsible for the escalating insecurity that we have in Nigeria. Because at the local level, that is where you have ward heads, you have district heads, you have third-class emirs, you have second-class emirs, you have first-class emirs.
But if if we look at it, they themselves are in danger. I mean, we've seen, some of these emirs abducted a number of times.
It is because
some of them even being killed.
They are a toothless bulldog. The Constitution did not give them any role. In the 60s, what were the roles
yes,
of
so if you look at, we are talking them providing intelligence and information. I'm wondering how that actually played out, because the experience we've had is that most times they doing so exposes them and places them in a very dangerous, position, by so doing. So how do they get protection?
And that is the dilemma. You see, assuming the traditional rulers are well protected, are recognized by the Constitution, they have the support, and they have the mandate, and then what they do is also sacrosanct, just the way governors do certain things, but with clear demarcation as to roles and responsibilities. We will have been solving most of the problems bedeviling us, because you cannot build something on nothing.
Right.
The bulk of the population is in the rural areas, and that is where you have the traditional rulers. Before, we were told that this jangali, jangali? That is all tax, what people pay for each cow. That goes to the traditional rulers. And because of that, they monitor the movement of herders. Meaning, any herder that comes to your domain, you know he's there, and then he will be accountable to you. And if he comes this year with 5 cows, and then next year you see him with 20, you will ask him question. Probably he rustled them somewhere.
Okay.
You understand? But we no longer have this. Before, any guest that, visited any community, he must first present himself at the house of the village head. He will ask him from where he came, and then he will ask him what he wanted to do. Today, people move without restrictions. Nobody cares about who does what. And all this is because we've taken the role and responsibilities of traditional rulers. And unless we recognize them, we will never get it right.
Okay.
And this also boils down to community policy. You get it. How many police officers do we have in Nigeria? If you put all the security operatives, Army, Navy, Air Force, police, immigration, customs, and what have you, if you share them with over 200 million people, that you realize that one baby is responsible for taking care of the safety of hundreds of people, and it's not possible. And that is why you see governors and communities coming up with Amotekun, Ensakai, and all that. And because they are not fully structured, that is why you are having jungle justice. In our paper, we reported that the Ensakai in Zamfara killed about 11 people or 9 extrajudicially. Will the police do that?
Yeah.
So which is, well, I mean, which is why many are saying that why not just, formally, legalize state policing, or maybe have some kind of vigilante arrangement that is backed by law to carry out some of these things.
So the mutual suspicion among politicians, because all this revolves around our political leaders. The political will to get it right is not there. Because if the political will is there, we will arrive. We will get it right. We can also have the state police, because already we have it. It's just that
doing
it has
it,
not
but
been.
it's not
Yes,
official.
Exactly. It's
we have it
informal.
already, but it's informal, and that is why it's very difficult to punish offenders. For instance, you can't use illegality to correct illegality. The youths that took arms and then killed some suspected informants, they too, in the eye of law, should be killed.
Okay. Now, still talking insecurity, yesterday the president in that interview, when asked about the whole insecurity situation in the northwest, and in the northeast, the president said since coming into power in 2015, his mandate was about security, economy, and corruption, and his administration has succeeded in, clamping down on Boko Haram in the northeast. With the little resources available, that Nigerians should be fair, in appraising the whole security situation in the country. What are your thoughts about that?
The real verdict on President Buhari will be after he leaves office. And this is our attitude. We rarely recognize our leaders while they are in power. Of course, you will not take it away from him, what he did in taming Boko Haram in the northeast. He really did well. But you can see when he took over, the major crisis was Boko Haram. But now it has manifested in many ways. Even the so-called bandits is just profiling, giving name. But they are all terrorists. Just yesterday now they gazetted them as terrorists. Yes. So you can see the whole of the Northwest now is infested by these miscreants. They are all over. So it is going to be very difficult for him to be treated fairly by Nigerians unless he did the magic of taming what is happening in the northwest, in the southeast, because you also have IPOP there.
Right.
Yes, you also have agitators in the south, even though we don't hear much about them, but at a huge expense to the coffers of the country, because the government is spending a lot of money to keep the south quiet. Yes, if they were to relax for 1 week, you will know that the south is also, on a time bomb.
Okay. Okay. All right. Another thing closely related to this is the issue of food security, and the efforts of government to diversify the economy, invest more heavily on agriculture. The president, each time he's asked about unemployment and, the current economic indices that we have, he always points to the fact that only 2.5% of Nigeria's arable land is being cultivated in the country and all of that. So the emphasis has been let people go back to the farms. But again, we have, vast lands, taken over by bandits and terrorists and all of that. Are we putting our focus where it should be really, as far as that is concerned.
Yes, no serious government will toy with issue of agriculture because people must eat first for them to do any other thing. But beyond that, you have to secure the country. We have arable land, vast land, and then willing people that are ready to farm. But what is happening is that they can't even access their farms. And that is why we are yet to get it right. Up till now, I don't think if we ever have people who are our generation that are willing to go back to farm as we have now. But the fact that the country is not secured, that is why food prices are not coming down. So for the president to be quite a legacy that will outlive him, to outlive his administration, is that he must get it right in the security architecture so that people can go back to farm, and then the huge investment that they have made will now be seen. Because people are not really seeing the investment in agriculture, because food prices are going up almost every day. Like this year, we did not witness harvest season. You know, during harvest season, prices come down. But we conducted, you know, a poll across the country. We realized that it was just for 1 week when prices, you know, just went down slightly and then they went up. And this is because not all people were able to tend to, you know, their farmlands because of the insecurity. So it's a serious problem. Honestly, they have done well in terms of infrastructure, which I strongly believe that what they have done will come to the fore maybe after they leave. But this has been overshadowed because we are yet to get it right in terms of security.
Okay, now let's actually get let's get to a more personal experience this time. Today is World Day of Orphans, and if we are to localize it down here in Nigeria, we all saw, you know, the war waged by Boko Haram, you know, in the northeast that left thousands, millions of children, you know, that they call them orphans of war. Now, as someone who has covered insurgency over time, what really is your experience like?
This is a tough one. Yes, whenever I'm confronted with this question, one woman comes to my mind. A young lady, she was abducted by the Boko Haram. She was taken to the wilderness. She was raped. She became pregnant, and then she lost her voice. She could not talk. She became dumb and deaf. And then she was discovered by the military in the northern part of Borno. Now they took her, and then together with other captives and all that, and suspects, they were taken to Maiduguri prison. And that was where she was discovered to be pregnant. Then she delivered a baby. Then there was this young woman from University of Maiduguri who was also arrested and then taken into custody. She was the one taking care of her. Then later they were profiled and then found out that many of them were victims of war, not really suspects. And then the military decided to hand them over to the then governor, Kashim Shettima. We went there. In fact, I cried that day because that woman, nobody knows anything about her. Because she could not talk, and then she had a baby. Now that child is just an example of the hundreds of thousands of orphans that we have in the northeast and now in the northwest, in the southeast, in the North Central. So I don't think if any organization will give you the actual number of orphans in Nigeria. And this is very dangerous because up till now, the roadmap to consolidating the gains in the Northeast is not really working the way it should. One, we have lost a generation because hundreds of youths, maybe between the ages of 13 and 25, have been wiped out by the crisis. And then you have many others who have been born and then their parents have been killed. What plans do we have for them?
Exactly. You know, actually that brings me to this question. So over time, would you say the government has actually, you know, done enough, you know, in helping, you know, some of these children of war? Because I remember vividly, privately, there are some people that have actually contributed to the lives of these orphans of insurgency. For instance, there's Barrister Zenda Mustafa, who has a school for orphans. Everything there is free, school fees, everything there is free. Would you say the government has actually contributed its own quota in helping out?
Yeah, when you go to Borno now, you will see hundreds of schools built by the state government. Philanthropists have also done their best, like Ahmed Indimi, you know, and then UNICEF and others. They have all built schools. They have recruited teachers, and they are trying to see how they can provide a future for these children. But it's a Herculean task. I think there should be a deliberate effort to see that we salvage them. And I know for sure that not more than 30% of these orphans are actually in school now. Many of them are in the villages. Many others are in IDP camps. Of course, you have some temporary schools in the IDP camps, but we have to go beyond that in order to bridge the gap, because these youths, these children are a time bomb. If we fail to take good care of them, they will become a monster in the next 5, 10 years. No, yes, because if they realize that they don't have a future, meaning we'll see a reincarnation of Boko Haram, we'll see a reincarnation of other violent groups, which will make the country ungovernable.
Which also leads me to another discussion, you know, which is closely related to this about child soldiers, you know, in Nigeria. Quite a very high number. If you look at the estimates from the United Nations, more than 3,500 between 2013 to 2017. So how are we really, you know, dealing with making sure that we deal with the issues, you know, that are giving, I would say, rather factors, you know, feeling, you know, this recruitment that is so easy for, you know, Boko Haram and the likes of them. When you have a high number of out-of-school children, you know, who are also even afraid of going to the schools because they could be abducted in the schools. 2021, we saw a very high number of abduction in schools. More than 1,400, you know, children were abducted. And so if you look at all of these, you know, indicators, you know, what does this spell, or what does this say about the need and the urgency for us to actually deal with the root issues of hunger, poverty, and the likes?
Security. Security and security. We have to secure the vast forests in the country. We demystify the terrorists. Then we bring out the captives, because millions of people in court, you know, are in the custody of these miscreants. Because we have many communities that are being ruled by bandits, that are being ruled by terrorists. And these young people, they are watching them, they are seeing what they are doing. you know. So for us to get it right, we have to secure our communities and then rebuild these communities. It's really huge. Nigeria is in a state of war. If not for, you know, the resilience of the citizens, I'm telling you, we will have started moving en masse to other countries which cannot contain us. Because imagine if people in Katsina State, with a population of over 6 million, thereabout, if they now relocate to Niger, can Niger contain us? In Borno, if they move to Chad or Cameroon, can these two countries contain the population? So it's a very serious problem that requires quality leadership with focus. So our leaders must have to rise up to the occasion to address this issue. We have hundreds of thousands of child soldiers now. They know how to handle weapons. They know how to dismantle AK-47 rifle.
Terrible.
Yes, and then fix them. And they can target, you know, whoever they want to kill, and they can eliminate that person.
Now, you know, just recently we are seeing the repatriation of IDPs from these camps in Borno State back to their communities. But the question would be, many would say, have we really made, you know, adequate provisions for these people to actually move back to their communities?
The governor is trying, in fairness to him, because when I was there, I know the quantum of destruction, because personally I've gone around all the local government areas in Borno, in Yobe and in Adamawa states. And you will never get it right if you keep people in an isolated area, that is in IDP camps, giving them 3 meals a day.
Some don't even get the 3 meals.
Yes. Now, assuming they are even getting it, for how long will you continue to do that? And I think it is based on this that the governor insists that, look, we can't continue like this. We have to take these people back to their communities so that farmers can go back to farm, fishermen can go back, children can go to school, women can start doing something, which is good. And but it has to be a holistic thing. Federal government should also do its best. Of course, they are doing that through the Northeast Development Commission. They have built hundreds of houses in the state, and it's an ongoing thing. They are also building schools. I know, you know, destruction is very easy, but rebuilding is the problem. That is why, in the first place, at community level, in fact, at household levels, we just have to get it right so that we will not even have the problems in the first place. Because once you have the problem, this Boko Haram started 2009, up to now we are battling with it. And as I said, we lost a generation, but we will not understand this until in the next 10, 20 years. Because in the Northeast, when you look at the age bracket of 15, as I said earlier, to 25, compare it with other parts of the country, it's zero there.
Okay.
Because most of these youths have been killed.
Now, also another issue, you know, that we may need to pay attention to is the issue of mental health. You know, a lot of these people have been traumatized as a result of the experiences that they've gone through. Do we have the capacity, you know, to deal with this issue of mental health at a massive scale, you know, the way we should, you know, be dealing with it?
It's part of the components of the rehabilitation, reconstruction, and the reintegration of victims and even the villains in the Northeast. You have a center in Gombe. We also have a few other centers in Borno. I had cause to speak at one of the conferences organized in Kaduna by the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria about 2 or 3 years ago. And I cited many examples based on my experience covering the crisis, and then I travel widely and I have seen how some of these issues are being addressed. You see, before this extremism came to Nigeria, it was visible in the Arabian Peninsula, even in Saudi Arabia. In 2008, I was among the 3 journalists invited by King Salman to Saudi Arabia. And when we went there, the Ministry of Defense, in collaboration with the Ministry of Information, they took us to where they were rehabilitating, you know, terrorists.
We'll get right
it
back.
Was awesome.
We'll get right back. The conversation is quite interesting. We're going to get right back to that quickly after this short break. Just stay.